Hello again everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's past paper is from June 2004, paper 1. So let us get right into it. In which of the following does manganese have an oxidation number of 7 or plus 7? Alright, so let us see how we can work that out. Remember, when you are trying to work out the oxidation number, the unknown is given as X. And because it's a neutral compound, meaning that there are no charges on the compound, so the overall charge will be 0. And that's X. Oxygen will always have an oxidation number of -2, so we'll put that in bracket, equals 0. Then we solve for X. So in this case, for A, manganese has an oxidation number of +2. We'll rearrange this equation to get +2. So if oxygen is -2 and it's a neutral compound, then what number should manganese be in order to cancel out the -2 from oxygen, and that is +2. So we can use that quickly to quickly identify the others. B, oxygen has an oxidation state of -2 and there are 2 of them. So for B, oxygen will be -4 oxidation state, and it's a neutral compound. So what number should manganese be in order to cancel out -4? +4. So in this case, right here in part B, manganese is +4. Right here, manganese is +2. Let us see what C has to offer. Oxygen always has an oxidation number of -2, and there are 3 of them, so that's 6. So that's +6. Sorry, that's -6 here. Now, what manganese should do in order to cancel out the -6? Manganese must be +6. So in this case, manganese is +6. All right. So we still haven't reached +7, but the number is increasing nicely. So let us see what D says. Oxygen will always have an oxidation number of -2, and there are 4 of them. So 4 2 is 8. So in this case, oxygen is -8. So because it's a neutral compound, +8 must cancel -8 for us to get 0. However, there's another metal there, which is potassium. Potassium has a +1 oxidation state. So if potassium is +1 and oxygen is -8, so that leaves us with -7. Sorry, leave us with -7. Then manganese will have an oxidation of +7. So D is the answer. Number 2, sulfur and oxygen are in the same group of the periodic table because A, they can react with each other. B, the atomic number of sulfur is 16 and the relative atomic mass of oxygen is 16. C, they have the same number of electrons in their outer shell. And D, they can form covalent compounds. And the answer is C. Oxygen and sulfur are in group 6, and they both have 6 electrons on their outer shell. So remember that groups, the valence electron tell you the group that they are in, right? So if the valence or the outer shell has 6 electrons, that means they are in group 6. Question 3. Which of the following oxides does not react with acids to form only a salt and water? Is it sodium oxide, calcium oxide, zinc oxide, or manganese dioxide. Now, if you look closely, all the options except D have one oxygen. So that means it will completely react with the acid to produce the salt and water. Manganese dioxide has two oxygens. So it will react to form the salt and water plus oxygen gas. So that's the reason why. So the answer for that is D. Question 4. Which two of the following statements about covalent compounds are true? They are mainly solids. No, not really. They usually have low melting and boiling points. That's true. They are usually insoluble in water. Yeah. They contain only ions. No. So the answer is 2 and 3, and 2 and 3 is at C. Question 5. Which of the following methods may be used in the preparation of barium sulfate in the laboratory? And we all know that barium sulfate is extremely insoluble, and the method that we use based on qualitative analysis, we know that precipitation would be ideal to obtain barium sulfate. Question 6. Which of the following is not a normal salt? Remember, a normal salt does not contain hydrogen within it. For example, here we have sodium hydrogen carbonate. Sodium hydrogen carbonate, CO3. This is an acidic salt, an acid salt, because it has hydrogen within it. A normal salt does not contain the hydrogen. For example, sodium carbonate right here would be Na2CO3. So this is a normal salt because there are no hydrogen. Potassium nitrate, KNO3, no hydrogen, so that's a normal salt. Potassium sulfate, K2SO4, no hydrogen, so that's a normal salt. So the only one that contains hydrogen within the formula or within the compound is sodium hydrogen carbonate, which makes it an acidic salt. Question 7. Which of the following factors would not affect the discharge of a particular cation during electrolysis? Is it A, position of the cation in the electrochemical series? That's a factor. B, the concentration of the cation in the solution? That's definitely a factor. Is it C, inertness of the electrode? The nature of the electrode is also a factor. D, the temperature of the solution? That's not a factor. So the answer for that is D. Question 8. In the electrolysis of copper 2 sulfate solution with platinum or carbon electrodes, meaning that they are inert, the blue color of the solution fades because A, copper is being transferred from the anode to the cathode, or B, copper passes into the solution as ions. Is it C, copper is being deposited at the cathode, or is it D, both copper 2 plus ions and the hydroxonium ions H plus migrate to the cathode? Well, this is true. Both the copper 2 plus and the H plus ions migrate towards the cathode. However, it is because the copper is being deposited, it is converting, or it is chemically changing from copper 2 plus to copper metal. And so that's the reason why the solution will fade. Question 9. In the reaction between zinc and dilute sulfuric acid, water is formed, an insoluble salt is formed, neutralization occurs, or oxidation and reduction occur. Remember that metal react with acid to form the salt and hydrogen gas, right? So water form, no water form there. And insoluble salt form, the salt form is zinc sulfate. I remember that all sulfates are soluble except calcium, lead, barium, and silver. So it's not B, neutralization occurs. It's not a neutralization reaction because no water was produced. So it means that it has to be an oxidation and reduction type reaction where the zinc metal change to zinc 2 plus. So it moving from 0 to plus 2. So that's an increase in oxidation number. Okay, so the zinc was oxidized while the sulfuric acid was the oxidizing agent, so and the sulfuric acid was reduced. Question 10. Which of the following exhibits allotrophy? The most common allotropes that you're accustomed to at your level is the carbon allotrope, diamond, and graphite. Right? Number 11. Which of the following substances A, B, C, or D is most likely sodium chloride? Sodium chloride is an ionic compound, and ionic compound, they have very high melting points, and they also conduct electricity in the aqueous or molten state. So let us see melting and boiling points, that is. So let us see which one has high melting and boiling points. So our answer take us to, well, our options take us to A and C because those two are the highest melting points. Now let us see if we can do any further investigation to differentiate the two. It says electrical conductivity in the solid state. This one says no. This one says yes. This one says yes. This one says no. So if this one is yes, it conducts electricity in the solid state, it means that it is not sodium chloride. Because sodium chloride, as we know it, table salt, will not conduct electricity as it is, as the solid table salt that it is. So it's not C. More than likely C is graphite. I'm suspecting it to be graphite. And it conduct electricity, the sodium, the 4A conduct electricity in the aqueous solution. So it's A. Question 12. Two particles have the following composition: 10 protons, 12 neutrons, and 10 electrons. 10 protons, 11 neutrons, and 10 electrons. Right away we know that this is an isotope. Question 13. A certain base react with a salt, producing a gas which turned damp red litmus paper blue. Which of the following ions does the salt contain? Everything A, B, and C are acid. They will change the gas of their salt will change the litmus paper from blue to red, which indicate an acid. However, ammonia will release ammonium. The ammonium ion will release ammonia in solution, making it basic. Will release the ammonia gas, which will make it basic. Okay. Question 14. Which of the following can act as oxidizing agents? Remember, oxidizing agents, they undergo reduction at the same time while they cause other species to undergo oxidation. The metals are known for their good reducing properties. So they are very good reducing agents, even though they undergo oxidation. The nonmetals, on the other hand, they are oxidizing agents while they undergo reduction. So they would accept the electron and undergo reduction while they cause other species to undergo oxidation. So the answer here would be it's none of the metals. Well, it's not the metallic atom and it's not the non-metallic atom. The metallic ion already lost the electron, and because it lost the electron, it will accept electron to form back the atoms. So metallic ions would be oxidizing agents. The non-metal atoms would cause other species to undergo oxidation. So these two are the oxidizing agents present here. So that is C. Okay. Question 15. The number of shared electron pairs in the methane molecule is, so this is the structure of methane. One carbon atom surrounded by 4 hydrogen atoms. And so that's 4. Remember that within each bond, only a maximum and a minimum of 2 electrons can hold there. Right? Question 16. A mixture of copper oxide and copper 2 sulfate. Copper 2 oxide and copper 2 sulfate could best be separated by shaking with excess water and then filtering, heating the mixture and condensing, shaking with excess water followed by fractional distillation, or distilling the mixture. Copper sulfate and copper oxide. Well, copper oxide would form a precipitate, that black precipitate, while copper sulfate would crystallize out. It would form precipitate as crystals. It's not really a precipitate, but it will precipitate out as crystal if the temperature that it is at is not saturated enough. So the answer for that would be A. That's how we can filter it. That's how we can get the solids, by filtering. Question 17. 2 solutions are mixed in order to demonstrate endothermic change. Which of the following techniques is most appropriate? Endothermic means that there's a decrease in temperature. If you put your hand on the beaker, it feels cold. So what's the best way of monitoring that? And there are some solutions that are colorless. So we cannot use observable changes, color changes, the pH. There are some mixture that neutralize that undergo a neutralization reaction, and so the pH would be misleading and the mass reading would be difficult to monitor. So the best one here, or the most suitable one here, would be B, the temperature changing. The temperature change, you can record it. Question 18. An anion with a single negative charge may be converted into a neutral atom of the same element by losing an electron, gaining an electron, gaining a proton, or losing a neutron. So let us use chlorine as an example, the chloride ion. In order for the chloride ion to be converted to the chlorine molecule, or the chlorine neutral atom, remember that chlorine exists as a diatomic gas, so Cl2 is completely neutral. The chloride ion must lose 2 electrons, right, to form the chloride atom. So the answer for 18 will be A. Question 19. Which of the following possible effects of a catalyst on a reaction is not correct. A. It has no effect on the yield of products. B. A is true. B. It is unchanged chemically on completion of the reaction. True. C. It lowers the energy of the reactants so that the reaction occurs at a faster rate. That's not true. Catalyst lowers the activation energy of the entire reaction, right? Not the reactants, it's the entire reaction. So this is not true. B, it allows equilibrium to obtain more rapidly in a reversible reaction. Catalyst doesn't affect the equilibrium shift, but it will affect it in such a way that it moves faster. So D is true. So the answer would be C. Question 20. Which of the following halogens is a liquid at room temperature? The halogen starting from fluorine is a gas, then chlorine, which is another gas, then they change state to a liquid when they reach bromine, then change state again when they reach iodine, the solid. So the answer here would be bromine. 21. In which of the following does hydrogen have a negative oxidation number? Hydrogen may have two oxidation numbers, two oxidation state. It can be negative or it can be positive. If it's with a metal, then oxygen would have a negative oxidation number. Other than that, if hydrogen is with a metal, it will have a negative oxidation number. Other than that, if hydrogen is with anything other than metals, then it will have the positive oxidation number. So given the fact that sodium is the only metal here, that means that hydrogen will have the negative oxidation number. So D would be the correct answer. 22. Which of the following elements does not exhibit allotropy? Carbon, which is graphite, phosphorus, which is the red and blue allotropes, graphite and carbon for carbon, that is graphite and diamond. Phosphorus is red and blue. Sulfur is the monoclinic and the rhombus or rhombic, and silicon would be the answer that doesn't. 23. The atoms of element X contain 19 electrons. With which of the following elements will the chemistry of X be similar? Element X has 19 electrons. So let us use the electronic configuration. 2, 8, that's 10. 8, that's 18, and 1. Of these elements here, lithium has 1 electron on its outer shell. So both element X and lithium have 1 electrons on their outer shell, right? So it means that they're in the same group, and if they're in the same group, the chemistry is similar. So the answer is lithium. Question 24. The carboxylic acid plus sodium hydroxide to give the carboxylate salt, the carboxylic salt plus water. Which of the following processes correctly describe the reaction above? It's not a precipitate reaction. It is a neutralization reaction. Reduction, nor is it reduction nor decomposition. So the answer is B. Remember, an acid reacting with a base give you the salt and water, and it's a neutralization reaction. Okay? Question 25. Which of the following statements is or are true of atoms? They contain 3 fundamental particles. They are indivisible in chemical reactions. Those of an element are exactly alike, and they contain particles which carry charges. So for I, they contain 3 fundamental particles, and those fundamental particles are the protons, the neutrons, and the electrons, right? So that's true. They are indivisible in chemical reactions. That's not true. Those of an element are exactly alike. No, they contain particles which all carry charges. Neutron does not carry a charge, so that also is not true. So the answer for that would be I only, which is A. Number 26, when solid lead nitrate is heated, it decomposes, giving off nitrogen oxide and oxygen. The balance equation for this reaction is, so let us see if we can quickly balance that. A, so you have 2 lead over here and 2 over this side. On the reactant side there are 12 oxygen, 2, 3, 6, 6 and 2, 12, so that's 12 oxygens. And over here we also have 12 oxygen, 2, 4 2s 8, that's 10, plus 2, that's 12. So A seems to be the best one so far. Let us look at B. B has, on the reactant side, it has 6 oxygen. On the product side, it has 2, 3 and 2, 5. So B is out of it. C, there are 6 oxygen on the reactant side, and there are 1, 4, 4 and 1, 5. So that's 5 and 2, 7. 7. So this is C is out of it. In D, you have 4 and 1, 5, 5 and 2, 7, and 12 oxygen on the, so 7 oxygen on the product, 12 oxygen atoms on the reactant side. So the answer for that is A. All right. 28, sorry, items 27 to 28 refer to the following options: a giant ionic structure, a molecular crystal, a macromolecule, an atomic crystal. Match each item below with one of the options above, each of which may be used more than once, or not at all. Calcium chloride. Calcium is an ionic compound. Sorry, calcium is a metal. Chloride is a non-metal. Non-metal and metal give ionic compounds. Ionic compounds are giant ionic structure. So for calcium chloride, it is A. Starch is a macromolecule. All right, so macromolecule, so that's C. 29. Sodium reacts with water according to the equation. Here we have the equation. The number of liters of hydrogen liberated when 0.1 mole of sodium reacts with excess water. So we want to identify the volume of hydrogen that liberated. Okay. Now, based on the equation, we were given 0.1 moles of sodium. So let us look at the mole ratio between sodium and hydrogen. And the mole ratio between sodium and hydrogen gas is 2 to 1. And there are 2 moles of sodium. So what's the mole of the hydrogen gas. So to find the mole of the hydrogen gas, it's 1 over the 2 times 0.1. So that works out to be 0.05 moles. So hydrogen gas is 0.05 moles. Okay, then we want to find what volume of gas will 0.05 mole produces. Okay, they told us that it is at RTP, and at RTP, 1 mole of any gas, 1 mole of hydrogen gas in this case at RTP would have a volume of 24 liters. Then 0.05 moles of hydrogen gas would have how many liters? We call that X, would have X liters. So let us rearrange the equation to make X the subject by cross multiplying. So when we cross multiply, we would end up with X equal to 0.05 multiplied by 24 over 1. The mole will cancel the mole and the answer will be in liters. So 0.05 multiplied by 24 is 0.05 multiplied by 24 equal to 1.2. So that works out to be 1.2 liters, which is expected because 0.05 is less than 1 mole. So that is expected. So the answer is A. Number 30. Which of the following diagrams best illustrate an exothermic reaction? Remember, in an exothermic reaction, the product is lower than the reactant. So the graph indicates that the product is lower than the reactant. So here we have the reactant. Y is the product, X is the reactant. Y represent the product, X represent the reactant. And so the answer is A. The product is lower than the reactant. For endothermic, the product is higher than the reactant. 31. An excess of magnesium powder was added to 50 centimeter cube of dilute sulfuric acid, and the reaction was allowed to continue until no more hydrogen evolved. Which of the following graph best represent the complete reaction of the complete reaction? So remember, as the rate of the reaction increases, as the rate of the reactant decreases, then the rate of the product formation would increase. And then as soon as there's no more, it level off. So if we were to start from here, and then it level off. Okay, so the answer for this one would be D. For 31 would be D. 32. The arrangement of elements in the periodic table is based on the atomic number. Again, not only does the atomic number tell you the number of protons or electrons in the neutral atom, it tells you the position where to find the element or each element in the periodic table. 33. How many neutrons and electrons does the particle X2 plus have? If it's X2 plus, that means it lost 2 electrons. And so let us look which one has 10 electrons, which is this and this. And the neutrons would be the atomic number, would be the mass number minus the atomic number. So that's 12, which is A. 34. Which of the following atoms represented below by their electronic configuration will most readily form a positive ion? Metals form positive ions, and metals are between groups 1 to 3. So we can ignore C and D because those are non-metal and noble gases, noble gas respectively. Now, between A and B, which one would most readily form a positive ion? And the answer is A, because there is only one electron on its outer shell and it's easier to get rid of that. As for B, there are 2 electrons, so it would first get rid of one, then get rid of the other. So A would be faster than B. 35. A compound has the following structural formula. Which of the following statements about the compound are correct? Is it an alcohol? Yes, it is. Is it a branched chain alkene? No. It can react with sodium? Yes, to form the alkoxide in this case. Would be one. So alcohol react with sodium to form the alkoxide. 4. Is it an unreactive substance? Is the alcohol unreactive? No, it is reactive. So that's not true. This is true. That's not true. This is true. So it's 1 and 3. 1 and 3. So that's A. 37. 36 rather. Ethanol can react with concentrated sulfuric acid to produce ethene. This reaction can be referred to as, so if we're moving from ethanol to ethene, we're moving from the alcohol to the alkene, then that's dehydration. And that would take place under acidic and catalytic condition, high atmosphere and temperature. So it's a dehydration reaction. (37) Which of the following equations represent a condensation reaction? This is an addition reaction. This is a substitution reaction. This is a neutralization reaction. The answer is A, polymerization, condensation of glucose. 38. Which of the following can be produced in one step from ethanol? Starting with ethanol, one step, which is the dehydration of the ethanol to give ethene. Ethane would be 2 steps. You would first have to get the alkene, and then hydrogenation would produce the alkane. Sodium ethanoate, you would first have to get the ester, and then acid hydrolysis with sodium hydroxide to get sodium ethanoate. Ethyl ethanoate is one step, where it is the reaction between an alcohol and a carboxylic acid. So that's just one step. So it's 4. So it's 1 and 4. 1 and 4 is C. Alright. 39. Compounds in a homologous series exiting the same state, not true. Possess only carbon in straight chains, not true. Possess the same molecular formula, not true. They differ by successive CH2 group, which is the alkylene group. This right here is methylene. So they differ by a methylene group, which is true. Okay. 40. Number 40. Items 40 to 41 refer to the following chart. The product I is, so here we have ethene forming the product I, which is the hydration of alkene to produce alcohol. So when alkenes are hydrated, they produce alcohols, which is A. 41, the product polythene is a polymer, hence the name poly. 42, the number of isomers of butane C4H10 is. The quickest way to find the number of isomers for alkanes is simply use this trick that isomerism start from carbon 4. So if it's carbon 4, that's where isomerism starts. Carbon 4 upward. And it is 2 isomers that would exist when it starts at carbon 4. Carbon 5 would have 3, carbon 6 would have 4, carbon 7 would have 5, and so forth. So butane has 2 isomers. 43. Glucose is converted to starch or cellulose by. Starch and cellulose are both polymers, and so it would be condensation, polymerization of the glucose. 44. Which of the following processes best describe the changes from 1 to 3? So we're starting out with the polysaccharide, ending up with the monosaccharide. So if to make the polysaccharide, which is the polymer, we remove water. So in order to get the starting materials, you need to add water, which is hydrolysis. 45. A compound was found to have a molecular formula C4H6. Which of the following is not an isomer of this compound? One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And carbon, for all of them, carbon is showing 4 bonds. So that's fine. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And carbon is also, all the carbon atoms are showing 4 bonds. So that's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one doesn't agree with the formula. D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the carbon atoms are showing 4 bonds, so this is fine. So the answer here would be C. 46. Which of the following substances would N-octane and alkane react with? The major reaction of an alkane, apart from combustion, when alkane burning oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water, is halogenation. So alkene will react with halogens to produce the alkyl halides. So it would be chlorine. 47. The following represent a portion of the nylon molecule, a polyamide. X and Y represent the monomers minus the functional groups, and represent the linkage. The linkage could best be described as, remember, for the amide linkage or the peptide bond would be carbon CONH. So that's the peptide linkage, CONH. Which one is CONH? This one, D. C double bond O and H. So it's D. 48. A polymer formed by addition reaction as the structure. The formula of the monomer would be, what would be the formula of the monomer? Because it's because it came from an alkene, we would ignore the alkanes, the carbon single bonds. Now, is it B or D? B, the carbon atom here is showing 5 bonds, right? 3 carbon bonded to 3 hydrogens, so that's 3 bonds plus the double bond, which is 5. So this is out of it. So the answer is D. Item 49 refers to the following diagrams. Concentrated sulfuric acid, I guess this is used as a catalyst here, and manganese oxide plus sodium chloride. And the question says, in which of the experiment would the amount of chlorine gas collected be the greatest? Alright, so chlorine gas is heavier than air. Cl2 is heavier than air, which is 71. So we expect a downward delivery for the chlorine gas. So it is between 1 and 2. Now, 1 has concentrated sulfuric acid and 2 has dilute sulfuric acid. Because it is concentrated, it will yield more products. So the answer is I, and I, which is A. So the answer is A. Question 50. Aluminum is more reactive than iron. Yet, after a while, a piece of aluminum left exposed to the atmosphere becomes corrosion resistant, whilst a similar piece of iron continues to corrode. This is because the A, aluminum has reacted completely. B, iron oxide formed is more reactive than the aluminum oxide formed. Or C, oxide film of aluminum protects the metal from further corrosion, but the oxide film of iron does not. And D, iron oxide reacts with the iron below, but aluminum oxide does not react with the aluminum below. The answer is C. Aluminum oxide is the coating that protects the metal, while iron oxide continuously eats away the metal. 51. Which of the following elements reacts most vigorously with H plus ions to give hydrogen gas? We know that is zinc, because zinc is above all of these in the electrochemical series. 52. Which of the following statements about sulfur are true? It is used in the manufacture of matches. That's true. It is used in the vulcanization of rubber. That's true. It is used in the extraction of the iron ore. That's not true. Lime, coke, and so forth. No sulfur is used in the iron ore. And 4, it is used in the manufacture of explosives. That's true. So it's 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. So that's D. 53. Chloride ions can be identified by using, so when, remember, back to qualitative analysis, we would use nitric acid and silver nitrate for the to test for the presence of the chloride ions, and so it's A. 54. Which of the following methods can be used in the extraction of aluminum? Remember, it is best to use aluminum in electrolysis, the ore of the aluminum, molten ore. Reduction of the oxide by carbon and carbon monoxide, that's for iron, that's using in the purification of iron. Oxidation of sulfide to the oxide followed by reduction of oxide of the oxide by carbon. No. Partial oxidation of the sulfide to the oxide followed by self-reduction of the oxide of the sulfide. No. Electrolysis of a compound of the element in the molten state. So that's D. 55. Which of the following metals will not displace hydrogen from dilute hydrochloric acid? It's copper, because copper is below hydrogen in the reactivity series. 56. Which of the following is an important constituent of chlorophyll? We know that chlorophyll consists of magnesium. 57. The main substance responsible for acid rain is sulfur dioxide. 58. Which of the following processes gives a different gaseous product from the others? Photosynthesis produces carbon dioxide and the sugar. Respiration is the reverse of carbon of the photosynthesis forward reaction, and it produces the carbon dioxide and water. Oxidation of carbon monoxide, it produces carbon monoxide, and oxidation plus the oxygen give you carbon dioxide. Heating calcium carbonate would produce calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. So which one is the answer? In each case, all of them produce carbon dioxide. However, photosynthesis produces oxygen and the glucose sugar. So the answer is A. 59. Yeast may be used in the fermentation of starch to ethanol because it is acidic, it contains enzymes which act on starch, or yeast itself produces the ethanol, or it fixes the oxygen needed in the reaction from the atmosphere. And the answer is B. It contains enzymes which act on starch. And question 60. Which of the following is or are condensation polymers? Pterylene is the condensation polymerization of esters. Nylon is the dioic acid and the diamine. Starch is the condensation of glucose, and polythene is the addition polymerization of ethene. So this one is the only one that is not a condensation reaction. So the answer is 1, 2, and 3, which is C. Okay, so we have come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe and share the video. See you soon.